Ballpark is a podcast where you can expect easy listening about Little League, Minor League, and Major League Baseball. We'll talk about highs and lows of the modern day Sandlot. So if you want to sit back and relax, rest easy in knowing you will get everyday guys sharing everyday opinions. Don't worry about complex analysis here, because on this podcast we are just breaking down the ballpark. On this episode, we'll talk about Zach Wheeler's contract extension and one of the Phillies' young prospects. All that and more on this episode of Breaking Down the Ballpark. Hey everybody, I'm your host, Dennis Wallace, and let's take a look at the Phillies starting pitching. After this spring, it looks like we'll have our starting staff locked with Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, Ranger Suarez, Taijuan Walker, and Christopher Sanchez. In 2023, these guys were hot. They were probably one of the top rotations in the league. And to be perfectly honest with you, who could ask for a better starting rotation? Our top guys, Wheeler and Nola, we've locked them up with deals. And part of this show tonight, we're going to be talking about Zach Wheeler's new contract extension. I just wanted to do an overview tonight first of our starting lineup with pitching. Christopher Sanchez, he's probably the youngest of the bunch as far as pitching goes. His career regular season looks like this. He's pitched in 41 games. He's 6-7 with a 4.14 ERA. He's pitched 152 innings. He's struck out 144 and he's got a 120 whip. That brings me to Taijuan Walker. He's got 198 regular season games. He's 69-56 with a 3.97 ERA, with 1,070 innings pitched, 944 strikeouts, and a 124 whip. Walker's coming off a sore knee after he took a couple personal days off this spring. But they were just saying that's some normal everyday spring soreness and they're not worried about it, so I'm not worried about it either. Ranger Suarez has pitched in 134 games. He's 29-21 with a 3.41 ERA. He's pitched 454 innings with 409 strikeouts and a 1.31 whip. The kid is cool as a jewel on the mound. He really is. You bring him into a game, even for relief, nothing seems to bother him. He is just cool on the mound, and you can bring him in any situation, I think. Starting pitching is his game, though. Brings me to Aaron Nola. 235 career games with a 90-71 record. 3.72 ERA with 1,422 innings pitched. 1,582 strikeouts and a 113 whip. I'll be interested to see who our number one starter is this year. Is it going to be Nola or Wheeler? Kind of interesting to see how they will approach that. Wheeler versus Nola on the deals. Nola went a little longer. Wheeler went shorter with the signings. So real quick, I'll go over Wheeler's career numbers, and then I'm going to break into talk about his deal, his extension. He's pitched in 227 games with an 87-63 record. He's got a 3.45 ERA with 1,378 innings pitched. He struck out 1,401 and he has a 119 whip. I'll tell you, you can't really ask for a better pitcher. He's one of the best in baseball, and we're lucky to have him on the Phillies. He's still in his prime as far as I'm concerned, and you can't really beat it. So without further ado, let's talk about Zach Wheeler's contract. Apparently this happened today. The news came out. He signed a 3-year, $126 million contract extension. He didn't want any longer deals, options, or opt-outs. He told everyone so months ago. His agent B.B. Abbott said, "I can see him winning his Cy Young his last year and walking away. He wants to see his kids grow up, and personally, I don't think he will play beyond this contract." Wheeler said he loves pitching and wants to stay in Philly. He said he loves competing, but said he didn't want to play till he was old. Wheeler is only 33 and turns 34 in May, but over the last 4 years has been one of baseball's best. If you ask anybody, you could expect that he could dominate for years to come. You could also ask anybody about how hard these deals are put together. But two things made this deal go smooth. Number one, Wheeler wanted to stay in Philly. Number two, the Phillies acknowledged Wheeler was one of the best pitchers in baseball. Dave Dombrowski said he's one of the best, and the reality is when you start not only talking about being one of the best pitchers, he's one of the best big game pitchers as well. If you think about the postseason, he's the guy you want taking the ball. I don't think of anybody else. Since 2019's $118 million 5-year deal, Wheeler boasts a 43-25 record, a 3.06 ERA, and 101 starts. This is the fourth best ERA over that time span. And I gotta tell you, with those kind of numbers, who can argue with that airtight case pumping up the AAV to over $40 million a year? If you talk to the Phillies, though, they wanted to try to keep it down to around $37 million a year. But they quickly realized it would take at least 40. The question was only how much more than 40 would it be, especially for a short-term deal. And honestly, now the only thing left is for Wheeler to pitch like he has in the past and live up to this remarkable record-setting deal. There's definitely pressure, especially being in Philly. It's a tough place to play. You'll have ups and downs. You'll have your bad games, bad innings. You may get booed here and there, booed off the field, but it's part of the game. You take that in and use that as motivation and just try to build off that because you don't want that to happen again. There is pressure to live up to the contract, but if you take care of what you need to, hopefully it will take care of itself on the field. Wheeler also said he loves the big moments, loves playing in Philly because the fans are the best. and there is nothing like playing at Citizens Bank Park in October. Boy, is that an understatement. Playing at Citizens Bank Park in October, and that place is rocking. Your heart's got to be pumping being on that mound. Not many people could handle that pressure, but Wheeler does it with ease. Every time that guy takes the ball, you have a chance of winning a game. I applaud the Phillies, and I applaud Zach Wheeler for being able to come to the table and reach an agreement so smoothly is what it seems to. Now, you don't know what happened behind the scenes, but the way they're putting it out there is it was an easy deal to make. And, I applaud Wheeler for being upfront about not wanting a long-term deal and just wanting a short-term deal. I respect him for wanting to see his kids grow up. I respect him for wanting to maybe get out of the game before he is too old to play at a high level anymore. These are all things that factor in and should factor into a player's decision. So as far as I'm concerned, this is a win all around. The fans win, the city wins, Wheeler wins, and most importantly, the Phillies win. And now let's talk about prospects. Spring training is the perfect scenario for young players to make good impressions on their Major League Baseball organizations, especially early on. They can stand out and potentially expedite their timeline to reach the majors. And for the Phillies, we're going to talk about Mick Abel. He's a right-handed pitcher who's 22 years old, who was drafted with the 15th overall pick in the 2020 Major League Baseball draft. He signed with the Phillies for a $4 million sign-on bonus. He didn't play a game in the 2020 season due to the minor league shutdown due to COVID. He made his professional debut with the Low-A Clearwater Thrashers in 2021. He did have a shoulder injury that year, but when he came back in 2022, he was assigned to the High-A Jersey Shore Blue Claws. He went 7-8 with a 4.01 ERA, 103 strikeouts over 18 starts. Then he was promoted to the Reading Fighting Phils of the Double-A Eastern League. In a recent article, Abel was named a prospect to watch. He had a strong showing in the Grapefruit League debut, striking out 2 in the scoreless inning. Abel had a tighter spinning slider like the one of his old days in high school. It had more of a vertical break. This will help distinguish it from his curveball. It'll create more separation between his two pitches. So while the future for Mick Abel is unclear, I think the Phillies fans can take comfort in knowing there is a right-handed pitcher on everybody's radar in the farm system. We can also take comfort in knowing that until 2027, Zach Wheeler will be a starting pitcher for the Philadelphia Phillies. I know the price was high, the years were short, but we have to admit he's one of the best and finest pitchers in Major League Baseball. So for Breaking Down the Ballpark, I'm your host, Dennis Wallace, and I hope you all have a good night.